Hey, what's up, everybody? It is Mr. Sanders Twin again, and we are back on the couch with a nice cup of dark black coffee, my favorite. Anyway, we have a couple of chapters of Ambassador to read. So on Monday, we'll do chapter 9, and then on Wednesday, we will do chapter 10. So, without further ado, let's jump right in. Chapter 9. Frankie's mother actually spoke on the drive back. Your sister Guadalupe is at my house already. You should all stay there for dinner and then stay the night. There's also a pack and play for the twins to sleep in. I'm sorry that Frankie isn't home. He'll be in California for the rest of the summer. I know, said Gabe. He told me. Her voice was still sharp, like ice sculptures carved with chainsaws, but it seemed to have emotion in it somewhere. She really did sound sorry. Can you drop me off at home first? He asked. I need to feed the pets before coming over. Of course, said Frankie's mom. She pulled up in front of Gabe's house. I'll see you at dinner. I have to go back to work for the rest of the afternoon, but hurry over as soon as you can. Hopefully, your mother and the toddlers will be out before dinner, and your mother will need the help. I understand that the little ones listen to you more than they listen to Guadalupe. She made a point of pronouncing Lupe's full name with a Spanish accent, which made it leap out and away from everything else that she said. The twins don't listen to anyone, said Gabe, but I'll hurry. Thank you for the ride and for everything. This was the plan, she told him. Taking refuge at our house has always been part of your emergency plans. See you at dinner. The car drove away. Gabe went inside. In the kitchen, on the card table that Gabe's father used as extra counter space, Gabe found the cane sword, the Vajra hammer, and a post it note from Lupe. Emergency plan number 23, read the note. Isn't number 23 the one about ghost pirates? He said to himself. Or else disappearing family members. That would make more sense. She probably wrote it to let him know she was over at Frankie's house, but he knew that already. He fixed himself some cereal as a late lunch. This was a sorry meal after the greasy magnificence of his breakfast, the last meal his father had cooked in this kitchen before leaving to run errands, get arrested, and get deported. Gabe shut the door on that thought and finished his cereal. He heard the plaintive scratching noises of unhappy pets and brought food dishes up to his room. All three pets expressed their unhappiness to him when he got there. Garuda's complaints were the most subtle. He stood and stared with silent reproach. The fox and the bird were both louder. Sorry, everyone, said Gabe. He checked his closet for the envoy and found only an empty aquarium. The envoy isn't here, which means that it's probably in the basement, which means that the basement might still be filled with hazardous physics. So you all have to stay here. Sir Toby tried to make a break for it anyway when Gabe left the room. Gabe gently nudged the fox back with his toe and shut the door. He hated keeping them confined. He hated the whole idea of confinement. Gabe went all the way downstairs to find the envoy. The wire frame in the basement had grown larger and more complicated since that morning. Red sparks constantly exploded from it, and most of those sparks joined a spiraling vortex of dust motes that fell through the dryer's open door and disappeared there. The envoy scooted around the whole mess, working furiously. Not done yet? Gabe asked, stating the obvious. No, it said, not done. And I don't understand the problem. The black hole should have completely dissipated by now. It should have ejected all the substance it had absorbed already, except for your entangling particles, because we sent those elsewhere, but it hasn't collapsed. It won't collapse. Nothing I do will make it collapse. It's as though something is working against me, deliberately keeping this open. I don't like that idea. All right, let's go ahead and answer the first question. What problem is the envoy experiencing? Make sure you're focusing on this paragraph right here. And I don't understand the problem. The black hole should have completely dissipated by now. It should have ejected all the substance it had absorbed already, except for your entangled particles, because we sent those elsewhere. But it hasn't collapsed. It won't collapse. Nothing I do will make it collapse. If you need a sentence starter, you can say the problem the envoy is experiencing is blank. All right, let's go ahead and continue. Gabe didn't like that idea either. How dangerous is it? I have it contained to the clothes dryer, the envoy said. The rest of the house should be safe. This wasn't actually an answer. Should be, Gabe pressed. Should be, said the envoy. It scooted quickly back and forth. Red sparks flew. Gabe sat on the steps to watch warily. My parents are getting deported, he said, his voice flat and gray in his own ears. The envoy stopped working, clearly unsure how to respond. I am so very sorry, it said. Sympathies, condolences. This is terrible. I also dreamed about the embassy this morning, Gabe went on, his voice still flat and gray. That part is good news, the envoy said cautiously. Though I'm sorry that I've been unable to prepare you for your arrival in advance. Protocol does get testy about that. I noticed, said Gabe. The conversation ended when red sparks burst from every joint of the wireframe at once. The envoy sputtered something in a different language and a different voice. It sounded like creative cursing. We'll have to talk later, it said, using Mom's voice again. I should focus on my struggle with this appliance to keep it from killing us. Gabe climbed down from the staircase and carefully approached to get a closer look at the misbehaving contraption. Then everything went wrong. The dryer imploded. The frame around it collapsed. Sparks appeared and disappeared again just as quickly. The envoy scrambled away from the chaotic mess. It shouted something, but Gabe couldn't hear through the sudden rush of air. The envoy's mouth reached out like a hand. Gabe took it, and the two of them raced up the basement stairs while the basement behind them ceased to exist. All right, let's go ahead and answer the next question. What happened to the basement? You'll find what you're looking for in this paragraph right here. Gabe took it, and the two of them raced up the basement stairs while the basement behind them ceased to exist. If you'd like a sentence starter, you can use the basement blank. All right, let's go ahead and continue. Gabe realized that the pets were all upstairs, trapped in his bedroom. Every single one of Dad's emergency plans demanded a quick exit in case of fire or poltergeist or any other circumstance in which the house itself had become dangerous. They didn't have an emergency plan for black holes in the basement, but the principle was the same. Get out. Get out now. Let firefighters fight their way into the burning house to rescue pets. Let exorcists fight their way into a haunted house. Get out. Gabe hated that rule. He still followed it. The envoy tugged him toward the kitchen door. Gabe let go of its hand mouth to grab both Kane's sword and Vajrahammer from the table. That was not part of the emergency plan, but they were right there, and grabbing them didn't slow him down. Then he grabbed his jump bag from the coat hook on the way out. That was part of the plan. He noticed that Lupe's bag was already gone. Gabe and the envoy made it as far as a tree in the very back of the backyard, beside the fence. The boy braced himself against the far side of that tree. The envoy wrapped itself around the trunk. Behind them, the foundation and the first floor of the duplex collapsed in on itself. It did so silently. Air that would have carried sound was sucked into the vortex along with the house. Gabe heard nothing but wind, howling and furious, rushing into the yard to fill up the suddenly empty space. The vortex compressed, collapsed, and vanished. The top half of the house fell into the hole where the rest of it used to be. Gabe felt the impact through his feet and legs more than he heard it happen. The wind subsided. Gabe came out from behind the tree trunk, breathing hard, grateful that the air around him held still long enough to be breathable. The second floor of his house stuck up from a hole in the ground. Gabe could see his bedroom window. He saw Zora tap her beak against the glass. He dropped the jump bag, ran across the yard, and yanked open the window sash to rescue his pets. Zora hopped onto his head and clung there with her claws. She made several chirrupy noises of alarm. Garuda sat on the bookshelf near the window. The shelf still stood, though all the books had fallen out. The lizard looked intrigued by recent events, but not especially alarmed. Gabe caught him up and held him. Then he called for Sir Toby. He couldn't see the fox, but the bedroom door was still shut, so he had to be in there somewhere. It felt bizarre to peer into his second floor bedroom while standing on the ground, as though he had suddenly grown very tall. He stuck his head further inside and smelled smoke. Of course, he said. Of course there's smoke. I also smell smoke, said the envoy beside him. Broken wiring may have ignited insulation in the walls. The insulation is very old and made of out of flammable paper. Not at all sensible. I noticed that hazard while crawling between walls yesterday. Sir Toby is still in my room. Gabe wanted to go back in. He wasn't supposed to go back in. It was expressly against the emergency plans to go back inside. He almost went in anyway. Stop, the envoy insisted. I'm less fragile than you. It climbed through the window like a slinky in reverse, found the fox underneath Gabe's bed, and herded him out from under the blankets. Sir Toby yip barked, angry at being herded. Then the fox saw Gabe through the open window and made a running jump in his direction. All right, we have another question to answer. Did Gabe correctly follow the emergency plans? So this is a yes or no question, but whichever you choose, I'm going to need a reason why. So the word because should be in your answer somewhere. And you'll find the answer in this paragraph right here. Sir Toby is still in my room. Gabe wanted to go back in. He wasn't supposed to go back in. It was expressly against the emergency plan to go back inside. He almost went in anyway. And if you'd like a sentence starter, you can use he correctly, or you can say he incorrectly followed the emergency plans because blank. Okay, let's go ahead and finish up the chapter. Gabe caught Sir Toby, tucked him under his other arm, and backed away from the wreckage. The envoy oozed out and followed him. Thick, dark smoke began to billow through every open window. They stood by the tree and watched the house burn. Zora chirped from the top of Gabe's head. The kitchen is gone, Gabe whispered. Dad's spice rack is gone. He's really proud of that spice collection. I'm very sorry for the loss, said the envoy. What just happened exactly? Gabe asked, still too astonished to be upset. How did this happen? The disaster triggered when you approached the clothes dryer, said the envoy. It shifted colors from pale purple to dark indigo blue, like the sky when the sun is almost entirely gone. Its voice was cold, colder than Gabe had ever heard his mother's voice before. Someone just tried to kill you, Ambassador. Someone tried to assassinate you, and they knew enough about the entanglement process to sabotage it. Only one of your own colleagues could have done this, and they might already know that they have not succeeded. We need to get you away from this place. Sirens wailed in the distance, growing louder. Gabe hoisted up the backpack and pets. He tucked the Vajra hammer through a belt loop and the cane sword under one arm. Zora remained perched on his head. Follow me, he said, and set out for Frankie's house. All right, let's go ahead and answer the next question. What does the envoy believe had happened? Focus on this part of this paragraph right here. Someone just tried to kill you, Ambassador. Someone tried to assassinate you, and they knew enough about the entanglement process to sabotage it. If you'd like a sentence starter, you can use the envoy believes blank. All right, let's go on to the next chapter. Chapter 10. Gabe cut through alleyways and the rocket scorched lawn of Frankie's backyard. He found the spare key under the fake rock in the garden and let himself in through the kitchen door. The envoy followed behind him. The kitchen looked shiny and new, or at least parts of it did, like the stainless steel fridge and the glass tiles on the wall behind the counter. It was much bigger than the one at Gabe's place, the one that used to be at his place when it still existed, which was just 15 minutes ago. That kitchen must be even smaller now, compressed to a tiny point of condensed mass. Or else maybe it was bigger now, its molecules expelled from the collapse of the black hole and scattered to the winds, covering the whole city. Either way, it was gone. Gabe dropped his backpack, put the fox and the iguana on the floor, set the hammer and cane on the kitchen table beside a pile of textbooks, and then closed all the doors to keep the pets from escaping the kitchen. Zora made a flying circuit of the room and then perched back on the top of Gabe's head. Fox and iguana claws made clackety clackety noises against the floor tiles when they explored. Gabe sat down on a kitchen chair, hard. He couldn't think straight. His head was spinning, and the centrifugal force flung coherent thought out his ears. The envoy tapped Gabe's knee. We should probably keep moving, it said, gentle but insistent. Where? Asked Gabe. Emergency plans ended here. If home burns, grab your jump bag and get to Frankie's house. Home had burned, the top half of it did anyway, and now Gabe had made it to Frankie's house. I don't know where, said the envoy, but there's a chance that our attackers can track the energy signature of your newly entangled particles and find us here. That's bad, said Gabe. Yes, the envoy agreed. So what happens if they find us? Gabe asked. Can they send other small black holes after us? No, your entanglement is complete, but I don't know what else they might do. And they must be nearby, closer even than the ships in the asteroid belt. We should be moving. We should make it more difficult for them to find you. Gabe didn't move. He didn't feel like he could. He needed to keep sitting down. He also needed a drink of water. The pets were heavy, and he'd run all the way there. He was supposed to stay there. The plan said so. Dad said so. Frankie's mother had said so. Give me a sec to think about this, he said, or at least started to say. Footsteps thudded against stairs. That must be Lupe, Gabe thought. Frankie's mom doesn't make any noise when she moves through at the house. Frankie's mom is more like a ninja than a pirate. He expected his sister to burst into the kitchen the way she usually burst into a room, but he didn't expect her to do it through a secret door in the kitchen wall. One of the wooden panels swung open, and his sister thundered through. Mom, she called. I thought I heard Mom. The envoy scooched under the table and out of sight. Mom's not here, said Gabe. She's in jail. No, not jail. A detention center. They'll let her out soon. But not Dad. Why didn't you come? Why are you hiding out in a secret room? And how is there a secret room in Frankie's house? He can't keep any secrets, not to save his own life or anyone else's. He would have told me about a secret room. Gabe didn't think anything could surprise him. Several unexpected and unsettling things had happened today already, but he didn't know how to handle the existence of secret doors and hidden staircases in his best friend's kitchen. This was like finding out that his sister was Zorro and Batman, both of them at once, and always had been. That's why Frankie doesn't know, Lupe told him. This isn't a playroom. This is history. Frankie's mom didn't want him to wreck the place or break the door, and he probably would have. Gabe admitted that Frankie probably would have broken the door. And I didn't go with you to the detention center because I would have been detained, dumbass. She shook her head. Mom and Dad never wanted to worry your poor, innocent little brain, but it's absolutely stupid that we've never talked about this. We made plans for it, along with all of Dad's ridiculous poltergeist plans, but we've never just talked about it. Not with you. Dots connected inside Gabe's innocent brain. He resented the word dumbass, but he swallowed that resentment and let himself begin to understand. You weren't born here, he said. Lupe had been tiny when Mom and Dad moved north. Gabe knew that already, but he hadn't ever thought about it. It was just one of the many ways he considered his sister more interesting than himself. She had a more concrete connection to family history than he did. She was actually from the legendary city of their parents, a place Gabe himself had never been. Nope, she said, I wasn't. I don't remember living anywhere else, but I'm not actually from here. You are. That makes all the difference. That's why I'm hiding. She said it like this was his fault. Then she saw the look on his face and softened her own. How are they? All right, let's go ahead and answer the next question. Why is Lupe hiding in the secret room? You'll find the answer in this paragraph. I don't remember living anywhere else, but I'm not actually from here. You are. That makes all the difference. That's why I'm hiding. And remember, the parents were detained, so that's also something to consider. You can use a sentence starter if you'd like. You can say, Lupe is hiding in the secret room because blank. All right, let's go ahead and continue. I only saw Dad, said Gabe. He relayed their conversation, almost word for word, while trying not to think much about any of those words. They sat in silence when he was done. Sir Toby tried to climb through the secret door. Lupe stopped him with her toe. Go take a peek, she said, gesturing up the tiny spiral stairs. Gabe took Zora off his head, set her on the table, and went up. The stairs were rough, without paint or lacquer, like stairs going down to an unfinished basement. They creaked under Gabe's feet as he cautiously climbed. At the top, he found a room. It was small. The whitewashed plaster walls were oddly shaped, as though otherwise unused corners of the house had been stuck together and tucked away. There were no windows. A small bed took up most of the space. Gabe crept back down the narrow stairs. He gave Lupe a look filled with large question marks. Underground Railroad stop, she explained. The chimney still has a mark advertising this as a safe house. Most of the railroad ran east of the Great Lakes, but a few lines still came through here. A lot of people who weren't slaves anymore slept in that room. Frankie's family used it again to help refugees from El Salvador and Honduras. Canada offered asylum, but the US usually didn't, so they needed to sneak their way north. Frankie's mom used to help drive that route in the 80s when she was barely older than I am. She doesn't do that much anymore, but she still takes people in. Remember Sophia? Gabe did, but only barely. Exchange student, he said. Lived here for a bit. Used to babysit me and Frankie. You were friends, right? She wasn't an exchange student, said Lupe. She left Honduras and walked here by herself. She passed dried up bodies in the Arizona desert, people who died of thirst or were shot by rednecks and dumped by the roadside. She stayed here when she got this far. Sophia told me what she was running from. She told me what happened to her brothers, but I'm not going to tell you any of it. She shut the wall panel. It looked ordinary now. Gabe found it odd that the secret place sat so comfortably next to a shiny new kitchen appliances. History hadn't ended. It wasn't over. It just overlapped with now. Lupe held out her hand to Zora. Meow, said the bird. She pooped on the table and then hopped onto the outstretched hand. Lupe stroked the feathers of her neck. Gabe fetched a paper towel to clean the poop. Wait a sec, said Lupe. Why did you bring all the pets with you? You should have left them at the house. The house burned down, Gabe told her. What? It burned down. I heard you, but what? What did you do? Did you pick the worst possible day to build another stupid rocket? A black hole ate it, Gabe thought. Aliens tried to assassinate me with physics. I don't know how it happened, he said aloud, but I saved your sword and the pets. Stupid, she yelled at him. Save yourself first. Leave the pets for the firefighters. That's the plan, remember? We just went through all the plans this morning. Gabe ignored the insult and said nothing. Lupe took up the hammer of wisdom and truth as if she wanted to find more spiders, or as if she suddenly considered Gabe to be a spider. She whacked the pile of textbooks on the table. Are those from summer school? Gabe asked, hoping to deflect attention away from himself. Yes, she said. I went to class this morning. Mother will be so very proud. Gabe watched her quietly boil. He connected more dots. What happened last year? Why did you start failing classes all of a sudden? Lupe glared at him. That doesn't matter. What happened? Gabe asked again, his voice low and relentless. That absolutely does not matter, she insisted. We've got worse to worry about than my academic record. Much worse, Gabe silently agreed. But he took the hammer of wisdom and truth away from his sister and waved it at her. Tell me. She took back the hammer and gave the books a few more frustrated whacks. Last year, I met with Mr. Paul Arpaio, the career counselor at school, she told me him. She said the name with exaggerated, sarcastic formality and anti respect. That's it. That's the only thing that happened. I was working on my college applications. He told me not to bother. He told me that he controlled all the transcript files, that no college would ever see mine, and he told me to start walking south. Gabe felt these spark bright beginnings of rage building in him. He wasn't really sure what to do about it. Dad and Lupe were the ones with quick tempers. They knew how to boil over, how to explode and still be whole afterwards. Gabe didn't know how to do that. He tried to ignore the rage sparks inside him. He hoped they would just go away. He was supposed to help you get into college, Gabe said, not keep you out. Yeah, well, he's helping citizens get in by making sure aliens with perfect grades can't. Not that I have perfect grades anymore. I'm pretty sure that's illegal, said Gabe. It has to be. Lupe laughed her bitter laugh. I'm illegal, you idiot. Gabe ignored both insults, the one aimed at him and the one she had shot back at herself. It took effort to ignore them. Did you tell Mom? All right, let's go ahead and answer the next question. Why did Lupe let her grade slip? You'll find the answer to this question right here. I was working on my college applications. He told me not to bother. He told me that he controlled all the transcript files, that no college would ever see mine, and he told me to start walking south. If you need a sentence starter, you can use Lupe. Let her grade slip because blank. Okay, let's go ahead and finish up the chapter and answer the last question. Gabe felt the spark. Oh, sorry, we already read that. No, and neither will you. It would break her heart and then kick all the broken pieces around afterwards. I let her think my grade slipped over a boy. Dad suspects otherwise, but he hasn't asked me for details. So, anyway, summer school doesn't matter. Not in any way does it matter. Improving my transcript won't matter because no college will ever see it, and also because Mom and Dad are getting deported, and because our house burned down. I can't believe it burned down today. You get to tell Mom. I'm not going to. I shouldn't be here to tell her, Gabe thought. I need to get away from all of you. Someone might blow another hole in the world wherever I happen to be. But he wasn't sure how to leave exactly. They had lost too much today already. The house was gone. Dad was in an orange jumpsuit and took very small steps with his feet chained together. Mom would need Gabe to look after the twins most of the time. He couldn't just leave, but he couldn't stay either. Alien assassins might attack at any moment and hurt anyone who happened to be standing nearby. This would be difficult to explain. He was still trying to figure out how to tell Lupe that he had to run away when she accidentally kicked the envoy under the table. It rolled across the floor, cleared its throat, and tried to recover its dignity. Lupe stood up. She began to hiccup. She tried to stop. Gabe got her a glass of water. Oh well, he thought. Guess I won't be keeping this part a secret. Lupe, this is the envoy, he said. Envoy, this is my sister. The envoy ducked its mouth in a sort of bow. Honored, it said. Charmed. Hello. Hi there. Greetings to you. I've heard that gargling can sometimes cure the hiccups. Lupe held the glass of water as if she didn't remember what glasses of water were for. What is that thing? She whispered. It sounds like Mom. Yes, said the envoy. I've mimicked the shape of her vocal cords to sound comforting and familiar. Lupe sat down, sipped her water, and continued to hiccup while Gabe and the envoy took turns explaining that her little brother, Gabriel Sandro Fuentes, had become the ambassador of Terra in all Terran life. Neither one of them mentioned the assassination attempt. Gabe just told her something went wrong with the basement entanglement, something that needed fixing. Somewhere else, somewhere not here. He wasn't very good at lying. He was far better at keeping quiet, keeping secrets hidden, than he was at lying about them. Lupe noticed, of course. Well, that's extremely vague, she said. I can't let you wander off alone. Not ever. Definitely not today. We need to stay here and wait for Mom. I'm not alone, said Gabe. The envoy's an adult. Lupe took up the hammer of wisdom and truth. She walked around the table, bent down, and whacked the envoy with it. Hey! Gabe cried out. Ouch! Said the envoy. Just checking to see if it's an illusion I can smash, said Lupe without apology. She sat down again. I hate that it uses Mom's voice. I absolutely hate that. But at least I feel a little bit less like an alien now that I've met one. I'm not technically alien to this world, the envoy said, but Lupe ignored it. She hiccuped and gargled the last of her water. Then she stared at Gabe for a long, unsettling amount of time. You'll be good at this ambassador thing, she decided. You keep calling me an idiot, Gabe pointed out. I said you will be good at this, not that you already are. But you learn fast. Just don't blow up the world like you blew up our house. The house didn't explode, the envoy explained. It imploded. It blew down rather than blowing up, and only caught fire afterward. Lupe didn't respond or even look at the envoy. She clearly felt uncomfortable about the existence of the envoy. Maybe she's too old already, Gabe thought. She's smart. She's curious. She makes new friends easily. But maybe she isn't quite neo-teenus enough. We should go, Ambassador, the envoy said, quietly insistent. Gabe stood up to go. She wouldn't let him leave if she thought he was in serious danger, but the serious danger was why he had to go. He didn't think he could explain, so he just had to leave. You can trust the envoy to look after me, he said. In that moment, he realized that he trusted the envoy. Lupe glared at him as if she were trying to set him on fire with her mind. Then she dug in her pocket and gave him all her spare cash. Buy a cheap disposable cell phone and text me the number, she told him. That's the only way I'm letting you out of my sight. And move your ass, Strawberry. Hurry up with whatever important ambassador business you've got going. I don't even want to think about trying to explain this to Mom when she gets here, so you need to get back first. The twins listen to you more than me. You really need to be here. Okay, said Gabe. Sure, he said to himself. I'll do my best to deal with a potentially deadly intergalactic incident by dinner time. Wish me luck. He opened the backpack, invited the envoy to climb inside, and hoisted the heavy thing over his shoulder. Take the cane, Lupe said. Gabe just blinked at her. Dad gave that to you. You're the oldest. You're the fighter. It's yours. Take it, she said again. I still expect you to bring it back. Gabe took his great grandfather's walking cane. It did make him feel better to carry it, to have mighty secrets in hidden Toledo steel. Lupe reached out with the mallet of wisdom and truth. Gabe gave it a fist bump. The beads rattled. Then he left the house through the kitchen door. He paused in the middle of Frankie's backyard and wondered where he should go. Away, he thought. Just keep moving. He took a few steps. Then he turned around for one last look at his emergency refuge, the only place that he knew. An energy beam burned through the sky and scorched the spot where he had been standing. All right, let's answer this last question. What happens at the end of the chapter? It's pretty simple what happens. Make sure you're looking at this little tiny paragraph. An energy beam burned through the sky and scorched the spot where he had been standing. And then we can say at the end of the chapter, and let's just fill in the blank right here. At the end of the chapter, we'll put a comma and then a blank. All right, everybody, that is the end of our read aloud. I hope you enjoyed it. It sure is getting pretty exciting and action packed at this point. So I personally am excited to see what happens next, and I hope you are too. But in the meantime, take care.